we are also helping folks from backyard garden programs to market garden programs. And all of these pieces, we're pushing folks to, hey, go out and set up at your market, reach out to restaurants, all of these pieces. And then it became pretty evident that our farmers markets desperately needed some extra help, some extra support, some extra boost. Our region is, we are in Central Appalachia, and our particular RC&D directly serves 6 counties of Northeast Tennessee. But with this particular program, we partnered up with some folks over in Virginia with Appalachian Sustainable Development to cover all of Central Appalachia. So that's Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. So we ended up working with 28 different communities and 31 farmers markets. So that was our reach. And in all of these communities, most of them fell within at-risk, or all of them fell within at-risk or transitional, according to the Appalachian Regional Commission. So it shows that we desperately needed this extra support within our economic system. Let's see. So the program, the duration, is a 3-year grant program. It was set to end this month, but because of COVID, the USDA is allowing us to extend that for another year. There were a lot of pieces we couldn't perform just because of the limitations the pandemic put on us. We did find creative ways to overcome a lot of things. So the program objectives, and the screen you're looking at now is our, like the diagram that's really been useful in keeping all of this straight for me and the rest of the team. So our program objectives, we had 3 main objectives: increase the economic viability of small and mid-sized family farms, increase regional consumption of locally produced agricultural products, and increase access to locally produced agricultural products by economically disadvantaged populations. So what that means is SNAP and EBT outreach. We also, again, because we have a high rate of poverty, we also have some of the highest rates of both diabetes and heart disease and obesity in the country, which is a huge part of poverty and poverty systems. So we're trying to encompass all of these things when we're doing this kind of programming. So the first thing we did was engage our market managers. With anything, you want to make sure that you are listening to the people you're serving. So the first step was making this engagement and learning from our market managers what their needs were before implementing any kind of additional programming. And also in this, while learning and communicating with our market managers, another big piece of this was strengthening that market manager network. So connecting our managers with one another. One market manager may have this particular tool set, this particular strength, another may have something entirely different. And so we were able to make those connections. We were able to get, here's a great example. The folks in Kingsport have an amazing SNAP EBT outreach program, whereas our friends up in Johnson County, it was a newer program. They needed a lot of help. And we were able to connect those 2 market managers to support across the region, these different tools that we had. We also developed partnerships to support all of our work with different organizations across the region, Appalachian Sustainable Development primarily being one of them, our network of farmers markets and market managers. We also partnered up with Jonesboro Locally Grown, and we partnered up with some tourism associations. So we partnered up with Northeast Tennessee Tourism, NETA, and with the Southwest Virginia Tourism folks. Additional partnerships we developed were a partnership with the Birthplace of Country Music over in Bristol, Tennessee. They're right on the border, so Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia. Bristol's a fun town. Half of it's in one state and half's in the other. And they host a Radio Bristol show, which was great in helping us get the word out about different market opportunities and different farms. We also partnered up with Ag Extensions and school systems, Department of Human Services, the Tennessee Association of Farmers Markets, and the Virginia Farmers Markets Association. So we pulled from as many different resources as we could in creating these partnerships. One of the big components of this program was education, and one of the things that our market managers continuously said they needed were these educational pieces. Please show us how to do these A, B, and C. Primarily what they needed was support in learning how to navigate social media and developing an online presence. And we started that from the get-go. That was the first thing out of the gate that we were supporting. And fast forward to the beginning of 2020, and if we'd not had the structure in place, would we have figured it out? Most certainly, but because we had all of this background, 3 years of additional training in both social media and website development, our farmers market managers were able to go into 2020 so much stronger. If this had happened 5 years ago, I'm not going to say that our markets would have failed, they wouldn't have, but it would have been far more difficult to keep us up and running. Another thing, we also had a marketing consultation firm come in that first year, and then we were able to pull in Kayla Tucker, who you'll hear from in a minute, to help. She's our marketing and communications director here at RC&D. We were able to pull her in, and she was offering a tremendous amount of guidance to our market managers. So community outreach was another huge piece of this. Again, you want to build this strong relationship between a community, a customer, and your farmer, and your farmers market managers, and your farmers markets. It's strengthening those systems of communication. And so we did that in a couple of fun ways. CSA fairs, community supported agriculture fairs. We've hosted, this would have been our 6th year hosting them. So what those are, community supported agriculture is an agricultural model where a consumer or customer buys directly into a farm. So you're buying it's like getting a subscription to a magazine, except you're getting a subscription to a farm. And you purchase those usually upfront, and the model's changing over the years, but you purchase those upfront, you invest in the farm upfront, and then you receive food boxes, produce boxes throughout the season. And so we hosted these fairs in community centers, so you could draw in people from multiple places of the region, primarily Kingsport, Johnson City. We've hosted them in Bristol, we've hosted them in Jonesboro. Serving, I think at this point we've served maybe 20 different farms in these events, drawing anywhere between 50 to 150 to sometimes close to 200 potential customers into these events. And the farms set up like they would at the farmer's market, but just with information about their shares coming up for the year. And it's really nice seeing these engaging conversations between customers and farmers, and again, creating that relationship when you know where your food comes from. It feels like there's more accountability to our neighbors, there's more accountability to our farmers and more ownership to our food system. Another really fun thing we started doing because of this extra FMPP funding were farm tours. And we'd seen these events happening over in North Carolina and down in Georgia, but we'd never had one in our region. So last year was our 2nd year hosting this 1-day long event, 1 day in Tennessee, 1 day in Virginia. And you buy a car pass. So as a customer, or as a farm tour participant, or as a farm tourist, you buy a car pass for the day, and we provide folks with a map, and so they can farm hop. One of Dana's farms was one of the farms the first year on the tour, which was a tremendous amount of fun. And so each farm does something a little different. And so each farm does something a little different. It's just a super engaging, fun event. And I am over talking y'all. We're going to run out of time. So I'm going to pass it on to Kayla to take on the rest of this, the direct marketing pieces.
Hi, everybody. So like Rachel said, I'm Kayla Tucker. I'm the Marketing and Communications Director for ARCD. And so I'm going to talk about the marketing activities that we've had, that we've completed and have been working on through our FMPP program. And if you'll give me just a second, I'm going to share my, okay. Let's see. Shoot. Okay, I'm going to talk about what we did overall for our marketing first, and then I'll go back and show you a couple things. So one of the biggest parts of our marketing activities was our SNAP outreach. We printed posters and postcard-sized flyers that were two-sided and had Spanish and English translations. And then those were, so they showed people how to use their SNAP benefits at our farmers markets. And we distributed those through DHS offices in Northeast Tennessee and through schools in low-income communities in the area, through walk-in clinics and other senior citizen centers in the area. We found those to be a very effective way to distribute information about how to use your SNAP at farmers markets. And some of our markets saw some pretty good increases in their SNAP redemption, we hope as a result of that outreach. And then another piece we did was the Find Your Market brochure, which we created a market map, a farmer's market map of all of our local markets, and put them on a brochure that was then distributed through visitor centers, tourism centers in Northeast Tennessee and Southwest Virginia, community centers, libraries, again, the schools in the low-income communities, and also ag extension offices to supplement their outreach programs that they already were doing. So we printed over 30,000 of those brochures last year and distributed those, and those were a pretty big hit. They were very, very useful, a useful piece of marketing for that the communities could actually use to find their local markets and learn about which markets were open when, and everything like that, and really connect with those markets. And then additionally, we did traditional media like newspaper, press releases, and articles. We did promotions in other local organizations in our state and surrounding states. So we did Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, and North Carolina. We also did an ad in the ASD local food guide, and we helped produce that local food guide. And we also did listings in ASAP's local food guide. So just really trying to get this information to as many communities as we can in this region. And then in addition to the print media, we also did some underwriting with WETS, which is an NPR affiliate, Radio Bristol Broadcasting, Blue Ridge PBS and affiliate stations. They helped produce the monthly farm report. And then we had various spotlights on local TV channels and things like that. And then in the digital media realm, we also put the Find Your Farmers Market map online on our website. We did a Farms to Folks page, which was born out of response to COVID, when COVID first started and we weren't sure if farmers markets were going to be able to open safely or if they were going to be delayed. We developed this Farms to Folks page to allow farms that were going to do direct sales instead of being able to go to markets. The ones that were going to do direct sales, we allowed them to come and create a free listing and just tell their customers, this is how we're going to get, our produce to you. This is how you can reach us. This is how you can find our goods in your area. So we saw a lot of participation with that, and a lot of our producers actually, were able to just increase their sales, and not directly through that, but they were able to really respond and meet the needs of the consumers, even though they had this new challenge to overcome. So that was pretty cool to see. And then in addition to all the marketing that we did, we also helped our farmers markets with their own marketing. We assisted them, like Rachel was saying, with our farmers market retreat. We did social media training and taught them how to, streamline their social media campaigns and make those more effective. Just basic training on how to use social media effectively, how to use different techniques and different medias on social media. And then we also printed materials for them with their particular marketing information, and printed yard signs with their market hours and whether they accepted SNAP or not. And then let's see. So I'll show you, let me pull up just a few of those things really quick. If I can get it to work this time. So this is the Find Your Market map. This is the upper portion. If you see these little, all of these little yellow dots are a market. And down below this in the brochure, all of those numbers correspond to a location, and they can see the name of the market, the hours, whether they accept SNAP or not, and what days they're open and how to contact them. This is the front of the SNAP card, the SNAP promotion card. This shows which farmers market it is, the location, and the date and times that they're open. And then on the back, we have the information how to use your SNAP card in Spanish. And then this is one of the custom posters that one of the markets created. This was the Greenville market. So they had this created and they had it to use, but they didn't necessarily have the funds to get it printed. So we were able to use our FMPP funds to help get this printed. So Rachel, did you want to do the COVID response section and talk about how we shifted FMPP?
Sure.
We've actually just got a few more minutes, so we want to leave time for you to talk. I mean, answer questions too.
Gotcha.
Okay, I can do this really quickly. So to shift for COVID, and I think Kayla and I both spoke about this, earlier in this quick presentation. The Farms to Folk page was, I think, the most instrumental in helping our local producers get up and running and get online. Another super impactful thing, we worked with a lot of different networks again, and the immediate response was to call other organizations and see what kind of resources we could pool. But I think another large piece of this is first the Farms to Folks, but also the fact that we had created this network with farmers markets and strengthened it, also connecting with the statewide organizations. We were able to pull together and create or establish safety guidelines to get our markets open again, and collectively did that so we could use those when we had city governments that were not so sure about opening the markets again. We were able to collectively say, hey, this is what we've all agreed on across, and I'm going to speak to Tennessee, because Tennessee and Virginia, how our governments handled COVID were entirely different. And so at that point, we were, as organizations, having to focus state specific. But because we could do that, we were able to approach these different city governments and say, hey, this is what across the state we've agreed is the right protocol, and it got our markets up and running. It was hugely beneficial. So that's all I've got. I mean, we could go much more detail, but we're going to run out of time. So if y'all have questions, how much time do we have for questions, Dana?
About 2 minutes.
Okay.
At the most. Does anybody have any questions they would like to ask? Just go ahead and speak up. And we can make available the slides that they showed you that showed all the activities. Yes.
I have a question from Smoky, California.
Oh, George, I'm sorry.
I'd like to, with some of these documents, if you're not familiar with the food programs, you don't know what a lot of the acronyms are, maybe with this, some kind of a document showing what the definitions are for people that don't do any of the food stuff. And especially as little time as you have today, that might be helpful for us to see the acronyms.
We can do that, George.
It's just, I don't know if that's a viable thing for this length of time. So,
well, we could. I'm assuming we've got all of everyone's email addresses. We can make that happen.
Okay. Is it Una?
Hi. Great presentation. Thank you so much, Appalachia, RC&D, and everyone else involved. We have, I'm just wondering how many staff you had working on this project and what kind of skills, professional skills they needed.
Susan, you want to answer that?
Yeah, so Rachel had was the or is the project director for the FMPP, and that does stand for Farmers Market Promotion Project. She's the project director. Rachel came to us with a skill set. She had been with the organization for 2 years prior to that as an AmeriCorps, and was just, knew the history of the organization, knew about our work, had worked alongside our other project director in our other programs that focus in the local food system. So she was the right fit for that. So she's the primary staff person for that. And then at the beginning of the grant, we actually had a marketing firm that was consulting on this, which they had some obligations that were taking them in other directions. And that was about the time that I came on to the staff of Appalachian RC&D, and I really wanted us to have an in-house marketing person. I just felt that it was important to our organization to have that person that's dedicated to our mission instead of their own mission. So we actually recruited Kayla from Biltmore House. She was working over in North Carolina at the time, and we had some good applicants, but I also knew who I wanted. So we recruited Kayla, and she was willing to come. So those are the two primary people that work on this. We have also a coordinator in Virginia who works with another organization who has been a partner on this project, and then just various other, partner organizations. But in terms of staff here, it's really falls to those two people.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and go on to our next presentation, hopefully gain some time at the end. But since we've got two speakers, this is a little bit shorter than we normally would be. So next is Velma, who is an AMS Grants Management Specialist. Velma, do you want to share your screen, or would you like RC&D to run your slides?
Can you run it? Maybe a little bit
Okay.
easier.
Are you going to do that?
Huh?
I think Susan.
Let me see. Okay.
There.
Okay. You have them there. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Velma Lakins. I'm the Grant Management Specialist in Local Food Promotion Program. Let's see. Okay, I can't.
You can just cue me.
Okay, you can advance.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk briefly about the local regional grants and opportunities. There's the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program. There's the Specialty Crop Multi-State Program. So I'll talk briefly about these programs. We also have the LAMP program, which covers the Farmers Market Promotion Program and the Local Food Promotion Program. A new program under that now is the Regional Partnership, and then it also includes the Value Added Producer Grants, which are administered through AMS. While I'll cover Specialty Crop Block Grant Program, FMLFPP, and the Regional Food System Partnership, the Value Added Producer Grant is administered by USDA Rural Development. You can advance. Let's jump right into it with the Specialty Crop Block Grants. SCBGP projects enhance the market competitiveness of specialty crops, including fruits, vegetables, tree nuts, dried fruit, horticulture, floriculture, and nursery crops. Each state Department of Agriculture, including the U.S. territories, receives a block grant. This is amount based on a formula for funding, and the formula is based on NASS acreage statistics. The money is then competitively subawarded to the organizations in the respective states. We encourage states to fund projects that address food safety, research, improve plant varieties, pest and disease control, improve distribution systems, and sustainability. These grant performance periods are for 3 years or 3 years long, and potential applicants should contact their state departments of agriculture directly to apply for the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program funding. Next slide. As an example of the state specialty crop block grant program projects, the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture in 2014 used $50,000 to create a risk management tool for among growers that address cultural and language barriers to farming. As a part of the project, the organization held well-received training on topics such as cover crops, soil health, pest management, GAP, and the USDA Farm Service Agency NAP funding. Next slide. I'll also briefly mention the Specialty Crop Multi-State Program, which is a subset of the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program funding. SCMP funds multi-state projects that collaboratively enhance the competitiveness of specialty crops based on the same four focus areas we just discussed for a specialty crop block program. This is a non-competitive block grant, and the money goes to the states based on the formula, again, as I mentioned before. AMS awards multi-state block grants funds competitively based on a two-tiered application review process. Applicants, again, who would like to work with multi-state initiatives should apply through their state departments of agriculture. The state departments of ag operate as sponsors for these projects. The next slide, please. So now we're going to talk about the Local Agricultural Marketing Program, LAMP. The Farmers Market and Local Food Promotion Program is under the umbrella of LAMP, which was authorized in the 2018 Farm Bill. LAMP is the Local Agricultural Marketing Program that was created in the Farm Bill. It composes of two existing local and regional food programs. That's the Farmers Market and Local Food Promotion Program. It also includes the Value Added Producer Grant Program. The Farmers Market and Local Food Promotion Program is managed by AMS and is broken into two component programs, the Farmers Market Promotion Program, which is FMPP, and the Local Food Promotion Program, which is LFPP. Again, the Value Added Producer Program is also under LAMP, but again, is managed by USDA Rural Development. Additionally, there's the new program, which is the Regional Food Systems Partnership Program that's managed by AMS. So this year was the first year that they had an open application period for the Regional Food System Partnership Program. Next slide. When it comes to FMLFPP and the Regional Food System Partnership Program, eligible entities includes these types of organizations. You can also refer back to an RFA to get a definition or which will define more what these businesses or eligible entities are. So whenever you're thinking about applying, you want to make sure that you fall within one of these categories as an eligible entity. Okay, I want to turn now specifically to the Farmers Market and back to the Farmers Market and Promotion Program. One more, down one. Okay, so Farmers Market, down one, up. Okay. We'll go.
Sorry, Vilma, do I need to go back?
I'm trying to see where, go down, okay. This was it. Okay, the Farmers Market and Promotion Program supports direct-to-consumer food projects like farmers markets. Direct-to-consumer doesn't necessarily have to mean farmers markets. It also can include CSAs, roadside stands, agritourism activities, just as long as the producers are selling agricultural products directly to the consumer. So it has to be products that are being sold directly to the consumer by the producer. FMPP has two funding tiers. One is capacity building grants, and it's meant for projects that are just starting. The funding ranges from $50,000 to $250,000. The second tier is community training and technical assistance grants for projects that have already established and are looking for ways to deepen their impact on the community. These project dollar amount ranges from $250,000 to $500,000, and the period of performance for these grants is for 3 years. The next slide talks about the project types. Here you can see the types of projects that fall under capacity building versus the different project types that fall under community development and technical assistance. The next slide talks, so here is an example of a project that was funded under FMPP. It was like one of our 2017 grants, where this project was in Memphis region. AMS awarded an organization $500,000 to conduct outreach to local small-scale farmers to help them obtain food safety certifications and connect them with the buyers. The project established a partnership with the University of Arkansas Cooperative Extension and USDA staff to provide produce safety training. The organization helped producers to obtain food safety certifications by developing certification zones in Arkansas, Mississippi, and Tennessee tri-state region. So that's just an example of one of the projects that were funded. Moving on to local food promotion program. This supports intermediary in the food supply chains like food hubs, wholesalers, processors, and other value-added production intermediaries like shared kitchens or business incubators. Grantees must use the money to aggregate, store, distribution, and/or process local regional food products. LFPP includes 2 funding types as well. There's the planning grant, which ranges from $25K to $100K, and these projects are for 18 months. The second tier is the implementation grant, ranging from $100K to $500K, and can be used to establish projects. I mean, you have your project, you have your idea, and you're ready to, full implement the project. So these projects are for 36 months or 3 years. Moving on to the next slides, which again shows you project types that fall under the planning for local food promotion program, and project types that fall under the implementation tier for this grant. The next slide is another example of a project. A 2016 LFPP grant recipient examined the feasibility of a mobile processing for heirloom apples. The project received $42,000 to survey existing orchards and measure apple supplies, and also determine the desired product idea for meeting the local food safety regulations. The grant recipient found that it was difficult for growers to sell juice directly to buyers, but they could profitably sell the secondary processes such as hard cider producers. So using some of the grant funds, the recipient tested a mobile juice processor, determined that it could generate more than 2,000 gallons of juice for at least 5 artesian cideries. So that's just another example of a funded grant project. Moving to the next slide, talking about the Regional Food System Partnership. It is to increase collaboration between the local and the regional food partners. It also has a 2-tier funding, planning and design, which supports partnerships in the early stage of convening, envision, and planning process for developing local and regional food system. The second tier is the implementation and expansion, which supports partnerships building on prior or ongoing efforts with local and regional food systems. Partnerships funded in this track will have already completed most of all their activities under the planning and design stage. Again, this is the first year that this particular grant has been announced, so we don't have any projects that we can share that have been funded. So they're still in the review process of selecting applicants to fund for this particular grant program. So as I talked about, the two funding tiers for planning and design is the 100K to 250K. This 24 months or 2 years. And under the implementation and expansion, the dollar amount ranges from 250K to 1 million. And the funding period of performance is 3 years for these grants. Moving on is the Value Added Producer Grant, VAPG, which provides direct-to-producer funds for economic planning activities or eligible post-harvest working capital expenses to help viable agriculture producers to develop business that produce and market value-added agricultural products. Maximum award amount is $75,000 for their planning, $250,000 for working capital. This is a one-to-one match. 50% of the total project cost can be cash in hand, and there's no rural requirements. And I think I forgot to say, with the FMPP and LFPP and regional food system, it does require 25% match. The 25% match for the FMPP projects is new and was addressed under the 2018 Farm Bill. So now the grant programs do require 25% match. Next slide. Included in this is just a slide that shows funding opportunity within USDA, which is kind of broken down by the different categories. So if you're looking for specific grants under production or aggregation or market consumers, it lists the available funding opportunities. And if you go to the website, those links under the different categories are active. So you could click on the link, it will give you some additional information about each of those funding activities, as well as contact information also. And for the final slide, just want to say thank you for the opportunity to share this information with the group. Here's my my name and contact information. And I've provided the websites for the grants and opportunities webpage, the Value Added Producer Grant webpage, and for the local food research and development website. Thank you.
So Barbara, we've got a few questions. Let's see. Can they use a planning grant for capacity FMPP is the question.
Can you use a planning grant for capacity building? Well, the planning grant is specifically for planning. So if you've gone through and you completed your planning grant and you're ready to apply and it meets the requirements under the capacity building, then yes, it could be used for that. In most cases, when someone is doing a planning grant, they usually do the planning, the first grant is the planning grant, and then they'll reapply for an implementation grant.
Okay.
But
okay, somebody on your CIDR project wanted to know who did that and what program, what grant was that under again, the CIDR project?
I think the CIDR project was an FMPP grant. Let me look real quick. It was done in Colorado, and no, it was an LFPP grant. So,
okay, LFPP.
Yes.
Okay, and for Susan, what did you do for your FMPP projects? What grants and how much money did you ask for?
Yeah, that was an implementation FMPP. I guess is that, I'm not sure if that's the right term for that, Vilma, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe ours is 496,000 for 3 years.
Yeah, it's close to
Ish.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so one last question, Velma, and thank you so much. We will provide these slides to everybody that's on the project, and we are recording this so that it can also be done. Where are you in your grant announcements now?
So for the Farmers Market and Local Food Promotion Program, we are wrapping up our 2020 application period. We are in the administrative review process. We hope to have announcements of awards out around October 1st. Typically, we open up the grant application period around mid-spring, so you can start looking for announcements maybe around the March timeframe. You can also reach out to us and we can kind of let you know where we are in the process as far as announcing the grant opportunities. One thing that I would recommend, if it's something that you're interested in and applying for one of the grants, is to visit the website, look at the RFA, because the previous RFAs are always posted on our website. So that will give you a really good overview of, you know, what the changes are, what documents are required, you know, what the process is. And so that way, when we put out the 2021 RFA, you'll be familiar with what you need to do, because there will be slight modifications to the RFA, but nothing that would be too major that wouldn't allow you to go ahead and get started now.
And then that last slide that you showed where you were in various systems, and you said you could click on that. Well, is that one of the places that you put on your last slide?
Yeah, on the last slide, the website there is on the bottom of that slide as well. So if you go to the website for that particular page, you could click on those individual links and it'll give you some more information about each grant opportunity.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And
You're
now
welcome.
we're going to move to Samantha, who is an agricultural marketing specialist, to talk particularly what they've done on COVID. Samantha?
Yes, I just shared my screen. I think it worked. So I work with Velma. We're in the same translation and marketing program. They're like the grants division, and we're kind of the research arm of the program. So when we saw so many COVID disruptions within the local regional food system, we decided that we needed to do some type of research project to figure out what was happening in the field, what people were doing, how we could bring it together, what kind of national platform we could create to make it as easy as possible for producers to learn, for agribusiness people to learn about what's happening. So we are seeing a lot of different wonderful work being done across different sectors, and thought it would be a great opportunity to bring everyone together and see what we could create as this community of practice. So we partnered with University of Kentucky, Colorado State University, Penn State University as our research partners. But then we also partnered with 16 different, we're calling them COPCOs, but they're community of practice coordinating organizations. And each of these 16 entities kind of represent a different sector. So we have grains and local fish and meat and shared use kitchens and restaurants. We also have two stakeholder group representations, one for tribal voices out of the University of Arkansas, and one for producers of color and communities of color in general, which is the Committee for Racial Equity in the Food System out of CEFS, which is kind of a joint venture of NC-A&T, NC State, and the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. So these 16 communities of practice, we've been working with them. We first started by trying to figure out what was happening in this, how everyone was responding. So we did these 16 different focus groups. This is a little outdated. I should have removed those two bullets. So we actually finished all 16 of them. We did facilitated focus groups with each of these communities of practice. The communities of practice leads kind of picked 5 or 6 people throughout the nation that they thought would really give a diversity of voices to the impacts in the system. And from there, we're creating these impact assessments. So unfortunately, the listening sessions themselves aren't going to be made available to the public. but we're creating these impact assessments. So there are going to be 5-page kind of sector snapshots about what's happening in these different fields. So taking from the listening sessions and then also asking individuals, these are some sample questions. What are some impacts that has happened to you? What are some innovations that have happened? Some obstacles, some impediments to your success? What kind of technical assistance could we be providing better to you, or what kind of funding opportunities that would help you really adapt in this circumstance? These are all being drafted right now and will soon be posted to this resource hub we developed, which is kind of the main thing I want to show you today. So I'm going to take you to our website, and I'll send the link in the chat when we're done, but I'm not sure. There we go. So this is our resource hub that we've created. And so we're seeing so much information being put out there. So there was webinars on pretty much every topic, briefing papers, best practices, but it was so much information, and you had to go to everyone's different website to kind of figure it out. So when we found those 16 communities of practice, those national representatives that really kind of had an understanding about what was happening in their field, we thought to be a great opportunity to create a resource hub that's vetted materials from these communities of practice so they can post up there, that's searchable, that's easy to find, so that people can really understand, what's happening. So on the resource hub itself, there's this catch-all. So right now there's 120 resources. They're constantly being updated. You can sort by what partner uploaded it. You can sort by what kind of market channel that it's going for, what kind of audience, like if you're looking for academic stuff or you're more thinking like, hey, I'm a food hub operator, I want stuff that's specifically on this. Different topic categories, best practices, food safety, that kind of stuff. And then this is really great, which people seem to like a lot, is the type. So whether it's a webinar or a Google sheet or a fact sheet or a directory or some type of blog article, so that you kind of understand kind of what you're getting. Not everyone wants to watch a webinar, they would rather read it. Some people would rather listen, and that kind of stuff. And then there's also this searchable function. So if you have you want like a virtual marketplace or something, you can just search virtual and then it'll bring up all the virtually related materials. So this was one thing that you can find. So when you click on the resource, it gives you a little bit more summary about it. It also tells you the audience, the topics, the channels, the keywords, gives you an opportunity to download it if you want it, or if you don't, you can just go right back to the resource hub and keep looking for materials that would suit you. This is also where we're going to post all the original content that we create. So those impact assessments that I mentioned, and also these innovation briefs. So when we are doing the focus groups and listening sessions, there are these really cool ideas that kept popping up that people were talking about. And so though we're doing more in-depth case studies and consumer surveys and more in-depth stuff, we also saw that there was an opportunity to just get something really quick and easy out there to give this information to people that they could possibly utilize quicker. So we're developing these innovation briefs. There's 2 up there right now. There's a lot more being drafted. But the way that it's structured is that it tells you what the issue is, it tells you what the innovation is, and it tells you what the outcome is. So this was one example that our CSA Innovation Network put together about how to do a virtual CSA fair. So on the website, it kind of gives you this breakdown, but you can also download the full brief if it's something that's interesting to you. So the briefs give you the issue, outcome, and innovation, but also kind of walk you through, if you wanted to do a virtual CSA fair, this is how you would do it. And here are some examples of places that did it and why it was beneficial to them. So yeah, I was trying to get it all done in time and give some time for questions, but that's a lot of information just thrown at you real quick. So I'll give the website in the chat box, and then also my contact information if you want to follow up or have any questions about, the kind of deliverables that we're putting out there.
Okay, Samantha, and I think, did I get it correct? I think the website you gave me, is that correct?
Yeah,
the way I
that's
entered
it
in the chat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Questions for Samantha. How do people add to this? Or can they? I mean, is there a way to submit things if they know something?
Yeah, so the communities of practice are the ones that are vetting them. If you have like something on a farmer's market topic or a food hub or something, you can reach out to me, and I can connect you with the community of practice, so that they can upload. They're the ones that have kind of their own user profiles to do it. And they're able to upload materials and resources that they didn't draft themselves, and they give an authorship to other people. But it's not just completely open to the public right now, because we want to make sure that we're keeping it to this. We're not trying to have 1,000 resources in there. If that's not helpful. We're trying to keep it as easy as possible to figure out, what's really going to help.
Okay. There's a question that says, if a council wished to start a local food related project, what advice would you give them?
That's a huge question. And I think anyone who spoke today can speak to it. I mean, to whomever asked this question, what exactly are you trying to do, or is it just it's something you're interested in right now?
Jean, do you want to follow up on that? You're muted.
Oh, her mic doesn't work.
Oh, okay.
Well, why don't you can email me after, and maybe we can set up a quick chat between us and whoever else wants to join to talk more about it. But yeah, well, starting a local food system related project right now is going to be a little difficult, but still plausible. And it's good to learn from how different people are adapting in this circumstance. Which partners?
Susan or Rachel? Yeah, Susan or Rachel, you might want to say, from all the food projects you did, how did you get started?
Well, I mean, so we have a backyard gardening program, and we have a beginning farmer training program. And so our farmers market promotion project was just a natural progression in that. So, we could talk for hours about the FMPP alone, much less the other things that we do. But, we here at ARC&D will be glad to talk to anyone that's interested in starting up something at, in your local council. We can just tell you what our experiences have been, and, try to maybe learn from our mistakes and successes.
I'm gonna add this really quickly, Jean, and like Susan said, you're welcome to set up. We can talk all day long, and whatever resources we've developed are free to share. The first thing I would do, though, is figure out exactly what your needs are in your community. Start there, and work from there.
And get local partners too. Sometimes, as who locally can help you too. So you might put it together, and then you call Velma and say, Velma, what kind of money can we get?
And you're right. Local partners is a big key to that. Partners.
And don't forget about producers. So many people want to start farmers markets, and then they don't have any farmers involved in their project.
Yeah.
Velma, people who have successfully competed for grants, in our last minute here, do you want to talk about what makes them successful when people compete for your grants?
Just a few things to highlight when you're competing for the grants. The biggest, I guess, issues or concerns that we've seen is when someone's submitting an application, they have all these wonderful ideas and they want to do 1,500 things. So, it's best to kind of figure out what your focus is, identify probably no more than 5 to 6 goals or objectives, and focus in on those, and focus in on, that they're reachable, they're reasonable, kind of stay away, because sometimes people think the more information that they give us, the bigger the numbers are. If they've got 30 partner letters, that it's going to make their application better. Not necessarily. We're looking for applications that, is obtainable, sustainability. So just try to stay away from the pie in the sky effects, and the kitchen sink, throwing everything into the application.
And get registered on SAMS.gov and get your DUNS number ready, because it takes a couple of weeks and people have wonderful applications and then can't apply.
Right.
So
So yeah, that's a big key thing to that too. And we're always available to kind of answer questions. We can't specifically say yes or no whether your project would be funded, but we can kind of discuss some of your objectives, some of your thoughts. You know, you want to make sure your budget is reasonable, that it's applicable to the work that you're proposing to do as well. And you also now have to really think about your match. Match is in cash or it can be in kind. So that's another consideration to think about as well. But,
Thank
you know,
you.
one of the big things is partnerships and making sure that there is a need in the community for what you're proposing.
We do have a post survey we want to go ahead and put up right now so that you can answer that. And I don't know if you can answer from George Jennings, Velma. Is there a grant to assess the network regionally, their strengths, and look to see where an RC&D council can help? How do they find out, you know, what's going on in their area?
Well, I mean, if you go to our website, we do have each year that we award grants. So the listed of awarded grants for each year are listed on the website within a summary about what they're doing. We also have reports that are listed on our website. So maybe take a look at the website and you know, check your state, your area to see what's if any grants have been funded in there. You can also reach out to me and maybe I can kind of help you dig a little bit more into this to kind of get some additional information.
Great. So we want to try to stay within our hour that we said. I want to thank everyone who spoke today on this conference. These are every other month. The next one is November the 12th, which is also a Thursday. Our topic's going to be watershed protection, and our featured RC&D is going to be the Yosemite Sequoia RC&D, who I just talked to actually this morning, and they were all having to be moved out of their houses because the fire's approaching. Where a lot of their staff are. So we want to keep them in our thoughts, and those of you others who are in the fire area. And then we'll also have a subject matter expert, probably from NRCS, to talk about watershed protection. Susan, any final word, or we're ready to say thank you?
Yeah, just thank you for everybody that attended. Samantha and Vilma, we greatly appreciate y'all and your time. I know y'all got a lot going on there. Dana, thank you. Jean, thanks for attending. And thanks to everybody at ARCD, and thanks to NRCS and the National Association of RC&D Councils.
And will you send out all this information to the people that registered?
Yeah,
and
we can do that. We can do that.
And where the recording is located, if it's going to be a YouTube or however it's going to be.
Yeah, I think the plan is to record these webinars and they'll eventually possibly get posted on a YouTube channel. I think there's some talk about that for National RC&D. So there will be access to it at some point, somehow, some way.
Okay. So thank you everyone for your time, and we will see you on November 12th.